At first glance, this map of human settlements over time might make sense. The numbers are 1,000 years ago, so around 200,000 years ago we see the first concrete evidence of Homo sapiens in Africa, and they slowly spread out around the globe. But the closer you look, the more weird it gets. For example, if we take a look at Africa, we can see that 200,000 years ago, sure, but then Madagascar wasn't settled until 2,000 years ago, and the settlers came in from the Indian side, or actually the, I guess, Malaysian side. Pretty interesting. We can also kind of see just how recent settlement of somewhere like Iceland is, or even like Lapland or northern Scandinavia. Here in Asia, we can kind of see things make sense, right? You come out of Africa and people stay in the tropics, slowly make their way north and south, but it does get kind of weird over in the North American side. So there is evidence of humans crossing over what we call Beringia, that landmass that would be where the Bering Strait is today, 25,000 years ago. We can also see New Zealand and Hawaii weren't settled until 1,000 years ago, which means that when Captain Cook visited the native Hawaiians, they had only been there for a few hundred years, which I think is pretty interesting. Moving into the Western Hemisphere, we can get to one of my favorite anthropological facts, which is that the Greenlandic Inuits came from Russia. They didn't come from Europe, which kind of makes sense, but it kind of doesn't. I just think that's a crazy fact. And then we see the Clovis people 16,000 years ago. There is some back and forth debate. We've seen archaeological sites older than this. We've seen 20,000-year-old footprints in New Mexico outside White Sands. There are even theories that people came across the ocean via boat, but because the sea levels were so much lower back then, it's so hard to find archaeological evidence of this sea travel. But there's a lot of theories out there. Side note, but if you're into anthropology, definitely look into the coastal migration theory, although if you're into anthropology, you probably are aware of it anyways. Another cool fact is that since we can trace the Native American settlement in the Americas back to Siberia, and there's a pretty strong theory that connects the Na-Dene languages of North America, which is like Navajo, Apache, with the Yeniseian languages of Siberia. So it's all connected. I don't know. I just think this kind of stuff is fascinating. Bit of an amateur, but there's so much out there. Shout out to anthropologists. I think it's one of the coolest fields of study.